Welcome. This is the first of 3 lessons in week 1 in the Fundamentals of Personal Financial Planning course. Have you ever found yourself in a new city looking for a particular store or restaurant, but you're not sure how to get there? Then suddenly you come across a large map, just like the one shown here. Isn't it comforting to see that big "You Are Here" symbol so you know where you are and where you need to go? Well, in this first lesson, I'm going to show you how to build your financial "You Are Here" starting point. So, where are you today? What shape are your finances in? In order to answer this, you need to examine 3 parts of your financial picture: your net worth statement, your cash flow, and your emergency funds. In this lesson, I'll describe each of these components and give you a tool to help you determine your net worth. By carefully analyzing these aspects of your finances, you'll get a good sense of your current financial health. First, a net worth statement or personal balance sheet is simply a summary of your assets and liabilities as of a given date. It's just a snapshot. Simply put, it involves adding up what you own and subtracting out what you owe. Some examples of assets are things like your checking account, savings, certificate of deposit or CD, money market accounts, the cash value of a life insurance policy, and your real estate. Other assets are like investments: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, retirement accounts, and pension funds. Your assets also include any personal property such as your cars, recreational vehicles, jewelry, and anything else in your home that you think is valuable enough to list. Now, on to the other half of the equation. What do you owe? Some examples of liabilities are student loans, credit card debt, your mortgage, car loans, bank loans, personal debt to friends or family, business loans that you personally owe, or even back taxes you might owe the IRS. It's really debt that you owe to anyone, whether you have a printed statement or not. This is how you arrive at your net worth. After you've calculated your net worth using a worksheet, you will know whether you have a positive or negative net worth. Take a look at the definitions shown here. Without even doing the math, you may already have a hunch where you fall at this point. Are you in the red or are you in the black? Either way, this is essential information, so you have to begin to grasp all the elements of sound financial planning. There are many freely available worksheets on the internet to help you calculate your net worth. In this week's reading list, you will find a link into the example shown here. I recommend you download this worksheet or a similar one and begin piecing together your financial picture. It's an important first step for taking stock of and taking control of your financial life. When calculating your net worth, it's best to use year-end figures, or end-of-year figures also called, or at least a single date's values for anything. If this seems too hard, try to get as close to a single date as you possibly can. In reading a net worth statement, you should be able to use total and absolute value of the asset, even if the asset is being pledged or collateralized for a loan. For example, if your home is worth $100,000 and the balance of your mortgage is $50,000, you would list $100,000 in the asset column and then $50,000 in the liabilities column. Now, a cash flow statement tells you how much money you earn versus how much money you spend. If you take today's net worth statement and compare it to the one from last year or next year, you should begin to get a picture of your cash flow. Examples of income are employment pay, whether it's hourly or salaried, rent from investment properties, interest and dividends from investments, pension payments you may be receiving, as well as any sort of public or private benefits you're getting, like Social Security, unemployment, disability, and so on. Naturally, your expenses include things like your rent or mortgage, debt payments, taxes, utility bills, food, medication, fees for service, and anything else that costs you money. Examples can be broken down into 3 categories, such as fixed or variable. Likewise, some of your spending may be required and some may be discretionary. Discretionary means things that you really don't need, but most of us spend money on anyway. And we all have expenses that are one-time only, as well as ongoing expenses. When you're creating your cash flow statement, it's important to include everything. You don't want to leave out any income, but you also want to honestly account for everything you're really spending money on. Don't forget to tally up expenses that occur less frequently, such as maybe property taxes that are split into maybe 2 payments every year, or that occasional trip to the dry cleaner, birthday gifts throughout the year. It's pretty common to overlook these kinds of expenses, but as we all know, they add up quickly. If you truly have fewer expenses than income, good for you. That means you have a surplus of money every month or even every year. If you feel like you don't have a surplus, then it's quite possible that you're not properly accounting for every expense. If you are running a deficit, then it is very likely that your debts are increasing. Positive cash flow would generally lead to a year-over-year increasingly positive net worth. Conversely, negative cash flow would generally lead to a year-over-year increasingly negative net worth. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, are you prepared for an unforeseen emergency expense? An emergency can be something immediate, like your car breaking down, or your house needing repair, or even something as unfortunate as a job loss. An emergency fund is any money you can access quickly. You will commonly hear that you should have 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund. However, everyone's situation is different. Someone who has a very steady job with a high job security may be fine with only 3 months of expenses in their emergency fund. However, someone with a more volatile job situation, for example, a commission-only salesperson or a small business owner, may need to have 6 months or more in emergency funds. An emergency fund could take the form of cash, checking accounts, savings account, money market funds, or even certificate deposits at a bank or a credit union. These funds should not be subject to any sort of major market risk. Some people might consider equity in their house or access to their credit part of their emergency fund, but still a foundation of cash and cash equivalents is still the best and very important, because access to credit could suddenly dry up or be hard to get in an emergency. An emergency fund is also vital to tapping into assets. Emergency fund is also vital to avoid tapping into assets that may have been earmarked for your long-term goals. In the next lesson, we'll talk about setting some financial goals.